Hey, Jessica Hensley here with Real Estate Mega Moms. And we have a fun and different for us podcast. Today I have a guy on our podcast. I don't think I have guys on my podcast very often. Mark, thank you for agreeing to be part of this debate today, mega versus micro. So Mark Pattison, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me as your first honorary male. Apparently, I didn't know that until just now. But that makes sense.
I'm sure we've had one. So our podcast, we've had like 353-ish episodes. I'm sure we've had a few, but it's definitely out of the norm.
There you go. Well, if it makes anyone feel better, my top agents, I've got a ton of females, all the companies around me, all my ancillaries, most of them are ran by females. So
awesome.
It's a very feminine group here at PorchLight. So either way, I'm not the most masculine anyway, so it's okay. No.
So you're going to be talking about your setup. So for those that don't know, Mark you're in San Diego, correct?
Yes. Well, San Diego, California.
Right there. Yeah, and so Mark runs PorchLight. So tell us, what is your setup? And of course, you're with EXP, just like I am. We're kind of like cousins within the fast forward movement. So tell us about your background.
Started out in real estate 7 years ago as a solo agent. I was working at Nordstrom, actually waiting to get my real estate license because California takes forever. And I decided, I started talking to these people. I was selling them clothes, and they bought like $5,000 worth of clothing at the drop of a hat. And I'm like, what the heck do they do for work? Because they don't work at Nordstrom. I got to figure out what I need to do to where I can make this kind of money. Sure enough, they work in real estate. So I was like, all right, I was already getting my license. I actually ended up working for the brokerage that they were at. Worked for them for about, I would say like 7 months or so. It was pretty quick. What I realized was that just Googling different things that people were doing, a lot of it was online, and the brokerage I was at was an older brokerage. So I decided to move to a new kind of style, a new brokerage, a lot of online leads. So I moved to a team, was an agent on that team for about a year and a half. It was a small brokerage, and then ended up creating my own brand within there. So within 2 years of being in the real estate industry, I created PorchLight. And now 7 years later, I have, I think, like 70 or 80 agents or so. I've got ancillary businesses between escrow, lending. I've got short-term property management, long-term property management, all of it kind of ran by different people throughout my company. And it's all under one building in San Diego. So it's kind of like a WeWork, but for real estate.
That is really cool. I mean, what a journey to go from retail to real estate. I mean, and It makes a lot of sense, right? You have to have a lot of the same skill set.
I had a bunch of jobs. I just never had a job longer than 6 months. So I would always get bored and I would quit. So I worked for Nordstrom when I was in college at Seattle. And that's where the store is from. So it was kind of like their main headquarters. And then when I moved to San Diego, I was like, hey, can I get a job at the store down there? Because it's taking a really long time for this dang real estate license thing, and I need to get some money. So I worked kind of like an interim job. But I would literally have a little drawer at my desk at the Nordstrom when I was selling clothes. And I would look down and study my real estate books. So then when I would go to take my test, I was like, all right, pass my test first try. But in California, it can take 7 months, 8 months to get licensed. Wow. Whereas some states it's 2 weeks. So it's just a little bit longer here.
Yeah, I hear that about California. So you started out at a company and then joined a team, and then you decided you wanted to run your own team. So talk about that journey. What was it like being a team member? And then, how did you come up with PorchLight? And that progression.
So when I was on a team, fantastic team leader. He's actually an EXP team now, or an EXP agent. I don't know how much of a team he has anymore. So I started out on his name's Jesse Zagorski. So fantastic guy, one of the most knowledgeable guys about real estate, taught me kind of everything from A to B with online leads. I created a team within his brokerage. At that time, he was an independent broker, decided, hey, he's going to move his brokerage to EXP. in the interim, I didn't necessarily move my team with them. It was kind of, we left before that happened, and but full circle, we're now all at the same company together, which is kind of cool, and still great family friends. Then I decided, hey, I'm going to create my brand within this brand. The reason being is I've always found myself as a natural leader. I think there's people that think that being good at real estate means that you'd be good at being a team leader, whereas they're completely different. Same thing as a lot of people will say, well, that real estate coach, he's never even sold real estate. Okay, which NBA coach or NFL coach has played in the NFL, or which Olympic coach has made it to the Olympics? Coaching and being is something completely different. And I found myself to be a better coach than I did to be an agent. I'm a great agent, but I found coaching and bringing people up is a skill set that I had. And I just found out, okay, let's just do this on a scale. I was a smaller team when I first started. I didn't have 75, 80 agents. I was maybe, I think like anywhere between 10 and 15 at most times. When we moved to EXP, I had 15 agents, and that was 3 years ago.
And I think you told me you closed, like, was it $1 billion?
Not $1 billion. I've closed over $1 billion so far. I think I'm at $2.5 billion total.
Wow. Yeah.
But for the year, I think the most I've ever done in a year is $672 million.
Yeah, that's insane.
That was the COVID heydays.
Yeah.
Those days are gone. Those are my old numbers. I'm going to keep, that'll be like, I'll always bring that up, back in my day. No.
Yeah, I love it. So, okay, but not everybody can be a mega team leader and a coach, right? And would you agree that there's a lot of agents out there that, they do need to refine their skill of being a realtor, and if that's their passion, that there is a different way, which is kind of where I come in with the micro team approach. I think that the mega team option is awesome, and I love that you do that, but the ones that I coach, the people that I coach, I feel like if they knew that they could have a lot of the same benefits as the mega team, they could have the same profit or comparable profit, they could run it with a much smaller scale and maybe less headache. Do you see that?
For sure. I think that there's it goes back, and one of the key words you said is profit. So it goes back to there's so many agents and teams that are not profitable. But mind you guys, there are a lot of teams that are very profitable. So it's almost like the have and have nots. If you set your stuff up for success in the beginning and you set your splits up right, because agents that are on teams, they need to realize that it costs a lot of money to run a real estate team. I mean, ours is around $200,000 a month. So we need to bring that in. And when the numbers shift, there's no risk for these agents when we have all the risk. So we should be, all the reward as well. So it's a little bit different when you're a solo agent. Solo's sexy. Like, solo's totally fine. Being your own agent, it's very profitable. The only problem is you have to work nonstop. It's hard for you to get away unless you have a badass assistant, which is great too. If you're, a smaller team like Jessica here, it's like probably a lot more profitable on the percentage wise. But also, if you pulled your production out, would that be as profitable? Like, can you remove yourself from the company? Whereas if I remove myself from the company, it still operates.
It's going to keep going. Yeah.
It probably operates better when I'm not here.
Well,
like,
that's
Mark's
because you found the right people, right?
Yeah.
So what was that? Yeah. And how did that happen? So just building it, like, what was the process?
Yeah, so I've had many variations. I'm not the best at hiring, to be honest. I think that we have a great crew now, but I've definitely have been like the kind of guy that was like, oh, I want to save them. They have like a battered, life story. Let's change their life and help them out, which is a great way to live. But if you're building a business, like, you need to hire the person that's the best for the role and go through the candidates. Sometimes I just wouldn't put in the effort to go through all the candidates and find out the true interview process. So now I've removed myself from that process. I'm not doing interviews anymore. I do want to have more of a tougher kind of edge for hiring the right agent. When I talk about hiring the wrong person, I mean more the staff, the people that are running the company. So I'm more the visionary. I run it kind of on an EOS, more or less, system. So I'm the visionary. I come up with the ideas, and then I have the implementers or the integrators that will actually make shit happen. So I'm someone who's good at doing tasks, but as a visionary, I just need to create ideas, and then I need to pass those off. So like 5 minutes before this call, I went to my assistant and I said, hey, here's some things that I thought of on this weekend. Bam, 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 bam. Like, word vomit all the different things I needed from her this week. And I prioritize it. I give her, I'm like, hey, this is high priority, work on this one first. This one doesn't really matter. It's just an idea. This one, communicating that effectively, and then she can get to work on what actually matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how I run mine as well. Someone said, I think this was my team, Katie. Yeah. So I just got out of my level 10 meeting, and kind of same situation. And we run EOS too with micro team. And what I've done is taken the EOS system for the smaller, real estate team, micro team. And I was able to say, okay, here's your marching orders. And I agree with you. I mean, my production is integral to our profit. I mean, that's how I have it set up. So all of my transactions run under my license so that I can keep more and I can do what I love. And so for me, and I will preface this too. I don't think either one of us are saying either way, micro versus mega is wrong. But what I am saying, and I think you would agree with me, is you kind of have to start with the micro and, dial in your systems, find the right people for the right roles, and understand your business. And something I've been saying to my students a lot lately is you need to hire yourself first, but before you hire anyone else. Hire yourself for every position on your team, and then fire yourself as quickly as you can. Right. And so what I've decided is the place I want to exist and I choose to exist on my team is the agent seat. And I've been able to consistently work in my business with production numbers above 100, between 100 and 150 every year, working less than 20 hours a week. Because the only thing I do in my business is show up for the appointment, for the buyer consultation, listing consultation, and I negotiate. And every other aspect of my business is handled by a team member, which I think, is kind of where you started. And then you replaced yourself with the agents, right?
Yes. Yeah. And mine was probably even earlier on than I should have been. I kind of fell into the team creation. And it was like, shit, should I even have a team at this point? But it was like, well, there's no turning back. Even though there were so many times I wanted to fire my team and be like, I'm just going to go solo. I definitely had those moments. But yeah, I have been able to replace myself. And like you said, you chose the agent seat. I chose the visionary seat, the CEO, the one that's just going to create ideas. And like Kyle Whistle, for example, he chose, I believe, the last time I talked to him, he's in the marketing seat. He loves marketing. He loves generating more for his team. And so everyone has, whatever you're passionate about, create your day-to-day and create your team around whatever you want to do. So, Jessica, you could have a mega team and still stay in the same seat.
Yeah.
We can do that. There's no rule book.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're totally right. And I have a couple agents that they work outside of the micro team setup. So I do have that locally. And we are talking about expanding. But I'm so excited and thankful that I have found this model, this micro model, as the foundation of this, because I do think that the differences between the mega teams that are successful and profitable and the ones that aren't are the ones that started in a way like this, right? They found the right people for the right roles. They understand the business and they know how to delegate and get themselves out of their own way. Yeah.
And to be honest, guys, I think I would love to, people always ask me, they're like, how do you do it? How did you get to this big team? How do you make sure? It's like, okay, well, which brokerage are you at? No offense. I love all brokerages. I think each one has its own purpose. But if you're building a team, it's really hard if you have a split with a company, even if you're on a 90-10. Say you're not in production. For me, being a mega team and being a team leader, I have to focus on the bigger, hey, let's build the brand. I can't be in the day-to-day constant production stuff. I still do sales. I think I did 9 million last month. So I still sell. I don't sell unless it's like a friend or a family or a referral, but I don't go out there and prospect, etc. But if I want to be working on the business and be able to grow, I can't be at a brokerage where I'm paying 10% of my commissions to. And that's from the GCI. Because here's the thing is that if you're not in production, or if you remove your production from the business numbers, because if you are including your numbers into the business, then you don't have a business. You're the agent working, building if you can replace yourself completely, then I think you have a business. And this is where I kind of go back and forth on this is our debate.
Right. Yeah. Micro versus area. Yeah.
I'm not calling you out. No, I'm saying is that because you're at the right broker. So at least you can make the profit. But say you're out of production and you get 20% profitability, which a lot of these teams, 20%. I just had my team run numbers from last week. From 12 months, rolling 12 months, we're at 33%. I think it was like 33.2% profitability, which for a team our size, that is very profitable, which is great. And that doesn't include any of my production. Now, if you go out and if you remove yourself, and if I'm just giving, Compass or Keller Williams or whomever that 10%, which is a great split, well, then that just took my 33 or 32 to 22. You're not paying them a 10%. You're paying them a 33% because you're taking away a third. Now, if you're like most teams, you're 20% or less, you're giving up half of your commissions to a company. So when people ask me, how do I grow? It's because I have a company backing me and brokering my deals that supports team growth. I was 15 agents when we moved over. Now I'm 75 to 80, and we don't even have a recruiter until last week. Imagine once we start recruiting. Wow, we might actually have a few hundred. But right now, this is all just natural. So like align yourself with the brokerage and the groups that are going to actually build you up. Jessica and I, you said in the introduction, we're not in each other's downline. Right. We're next to each other. We're cousins at EXP somehow through someone, but that doesn't matter. We still are willing to help each other out because that's the EXP motto. Like we want to see each other succeed.
Yeah, whether you want a mega team, micro team, or want to just be solo, really EXP is the game changer. And what's really cool, I've been able to take a lot of my students through what I call it. I have an income model calculator for them. So I can show them, I can model out if you have these positions on your team and you do X production and you have this split with your brokerage, this is your net. And every time I do it, it's like there's this click. They're like, wow, I didn't realize I was paying my brokerage so much. There was a couple here recently that number is like between 60 and 100,000. And I'm like, girl, if you just made a little bit of a move here, you could pay for your admin and your staff out of that. And then your net's even going to be higher. So
but then they say, well, they don't have an office. Okay, well, we bought our second building. Like that's how much you're like, you own the buildings. You don't even have to rent. You don't, it's amazing. I freaking love EXP. But yeah, there's like, it's just like, it feels good. And also just the broker and the founder, Glenn, is like the coolest guy ever. He actually cares about the agents. Like he's on a text thread with us, like talking about virtual assistants and talking about different types of lead sources. This guy's a billionaire. And he's sitting here just like texting back and forth with these. I think I'm a minion. I'm like, what is he talking to me for? But it's great. He actually cares.
Yeah, I mean, somebody asked me the other day, what was the difference? What's the big draw? And of course, I love the rev share, but like rev share aside and cap aside, I feel like I have proximity to the best, the most brilliant minds in this industry without having to pay for it. So just because I'm in Kyle Whistle's downline and Dan Beer's downline, like you are with Fast Forward, I get access to these amazing masterminds. So one's happening today at 12 Central Time. And then every other week we have what we call our generals call, which is like, it's a game changer. It really is. And again, no matter what level you're at, you're always going to take some, I take pages of notes, and I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been a coach now for 8 years, and I'm always learning. Yeah.
That's my notes from my last mastermind with him. I'm like, there's always something because it's always changing. And if you're not pivoting, I feel like we have such a pulse on the market because we have such a huge group. That Monday call, how many people are on it? 700, 800 every week.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have a couple coming today. I'm excited to show them what it's all about. But so the other thing that EXP, and I think this kind of goes back to the micro versus mega debate. Part of the reason I have kind of clung to this micro system, and I'm comfortable here. I really want to stay here. I'm in a rural area. This is something else that's different between you and me. My town has 10,000 people. My average price point is 125, 150,000. So I have to do big time volume, and there's not a lot of agents in our area. I think our entire MLS has like 150 agents for the entire like Southeast Kansas, not my town. So I really can't build.
Are you by Branson?
Pretty close. I'm 3 hours away.
Okay. Yeah, that's like a car ride, just like a quick little drive in Missouri and Kansas.
Yeah, so you're telling me I need to not be limited. I'm not licensed in Missouri, Mark. I'm licensed in Oklahoma though, so I could cover a bigger area. Okay, I get where you're going with this.
No. I was just wondering where in the map. I'm like thinking.
Okay.
I've been to Branson, I've been to Ozarks, and I've been to Kansas City, Kansas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kansas City's like 2.5, 3 hours from me. So my point is, I enjoy my setup, and I want to show, especially the solo successful agents that are like, a lot of their concerns are they're lonely, they are burned out, they feel like they have to do it all. Like you said, these people feel like they're married to their job, they can't get away. I don't feel like that. I can take a break. I can leave my business for 3 weeks at a time, like I did this a couple months ago. And my business is in place. Everyone is taken care of. I came back to 5 closings that week. And I think I didn't see 3 of the houses. So I do not feel like I'm married to it. Yes, I'm in charge of it and I'm managing it. And I am making sure everyone's doing and holding them accountable. But because I have the right people in the right roles, I feel like I have that freedom. And so that's why I love the micro setup, I guess.
Yeah. No, and I think you would be great at, and you and I, we could do probably whatever the heck we wanted, just because our mindset is like, okay, this is what we need to have in place.
Right.
In order for it to happen. Like I could be micro, you could be mega, you're just in a different market. So it'd be hard for you to get the agent count in order to do it.
Yeah, it would be.
But your setup is same as mine. You just have the right people and treat the people right and train them and get them going. You'd be, it's not as easy as we say it is, but it's also not super hard. If that's kind of like contradictory, but it's not the hardest thing to do.
You know what the worst part is, Mark, and I think you would agree. I think getting out of your own way is the hardest part. I'm
totally fine with that. Except for, well, that's bullshit. I'm lying. Because I even got pissed about a freaking logo that someone created. I was like, who sent this off? I'm like, do I have to do everything? And I was like, God, I'm so particular. So I am sometimes really good about letting people do whatever, but I think I have a certain way of how I want things. And I think I'm better now at communicating it up front. Like I just said about the assistant, I'm like, this one's priority. This one's just an idea. This one. And if I were to not communicate that and she didn't know, how is she supposed to know? It's all about communication and effective communication. But I don't think passing things off and having people delegate is hard for me. I think
that keeping it's one thing to say, yeah, I can delegate, but also keeping someone happy and engaged and also performing at the level you want them to be, where you're satisfied with it. That is a skill set, right? I was talking to one of my students last week, and she has to have a really hard conversation with her assistant, probably let her go. And it's because she's let her get by with not taking ownership, not performing at a level that she should be. And so I recommended a couple books, and you might have read these, Mark. Radical Candor. Nope. And then Fierce Conversations. Fierce Conversations is by Susan Scott. Oh my gosh, game changers. They are amazing books, and really talk about having those hard conversations with your team and approaching it from a place of I guess learning and not accusing. So where my leadership style was lacking for many, many years was I definitely would get frustrated. And then I was like, why did you do this? What's going on? Right? Instead of coming, well, what do you think we should do? How can we solve this problem, and letting them be in that driver's seat and have the different mentality about it. To me, that's the hardest part of being a leader.
I just ordered Fierce Conversations.
They're good.
Add to cart. Proceed to checkout. Perfect.
And Radical Candor is the other one, and they're pretty similar. And I don't think you were never at KW, were you?
No, I was not.
I was at KW and I went through Bold. And what's funny is Fierce Conversations, like word for word, a lot of the stuff they taught in Bold. So I'm pretty sure they got a lot of those ideas from her book.
Okay, so brokerage and this could be that we already agree on the mega versus micro teams, that we could be whatever one we wanted to be. And it's I think, like you said, and we've talked about, is just profitability. Well, let's talk about you mentioned KW. Now, KW talks about training. Now, with you having to go through Bold, and did you have to pay for that, or was that part of their training because their training is all part of their company?
I would have had to pay for it. When I went over, part of my package was that my market center paid for my Bold, and also I went through career visioning and a lot of their other classes that first year. But I did pay for my team to go through Bold. I paid for each of my agents.
And how much is it? Do you remember?
I want to say it was like $600 or $700, maybe. It might have been more. Yeah.
Now, when you're talking about the groups that we have in the masterminds with EXP that are, how much do you pay for to be on our mastermind each week?
Nothing. Yeah.
And what do you think, the content is better, or do you think isn't it crazy? And I hate when people say something's like a company's good at training. I'm like, no, they're not. Why do they have so many failed agents? No offense. But
well, and I think the difference too is like who's teaching. Although what's funny is my Bold instructor is Matt, and I will not even try to pronounce his last name. He's in Kansas City, and he just moved to EXP last year. Yeah. And I was like, dang, you didn't ask me to be your sponsor, but I'm sure he had someone else lined up. But anyway, but their instructors a lot of times are not like the best of the best. And I feel like that's what we get because of the Icon program. So for those that don't know, if you sell a certain amount, you qualify to be an Icon. And it's not just volume, it's also like number of transactions. So it's a pretty good amount. And you're required to give back. They call it a cultural requirement. And a lot of us choose to teach in the world. So, not only do we have access to that mastermind through our upline, but also in EXP, you have the best of the best agents teaching every topic you can imagine. AI, Instagram, farming, expireds, everything you can think of is out there.
Yeah. And it's insane about how much content and free trainings. It's like 80 hours a week. That's just on EXP World. And then our Fast Forward movement that we've been talking about, that's a group within EXP. And all of our trainings are completely different than EXP. So it's kind of cool is that we're able to have all this access to all this training for free. And it's the people that are training are the people that are doing, which is fantastic.
And I forgot to say this, and the reason I brought it up at all was, what about agents on the mega setup and the traditional setup? Part of my issue was I would bring these agents in, train them, pour my heart and soul into them. And I probably just took it way more seriously than I should have. But then they would leave. They would go to a different company or leave my team somehow. And my solace has been with EXP is like, I'm cheering for them if they leave my team. We're good, right? Do you feel like the same? Do you have a lot of turnover with your agents?
We have a lot of turnover, but not once they're past their first 6 months, no. But their beginning stages for sure, because we kind of just, hey, sink or swim, baby. Let's go. Like, that's how I kind of feel like I don't train the new agents. We did just hire, when I send you that recruiter, she's in charge of the agent's first year. So I think the agent success is going to be a lot more because I do think it is a little bit tougher. Market is a little bit harder than what we've experienced before. So she's there to be their kind of person to lean on. So I think we'll have a little bit more success that way. But we've never really been the one to hold their hand. I always think it's like, if you want to succeed or if you want success, you got to want it yourself. I can't want it for you.
Yeah. And that's a hard lesson for me that I had to learn. You can't want them for them. And I think that's why I took back. I mean, just to be honest, Mark, I took back ownership and responsibility and expectation. I wanted to live in a state of less expectation from agents and more expectation of myself. And instead of doing it all myself, forming a support team around me that could help me exceed my own expectations.
Yeah, you can't expect or have these expectations for others in your life, especially agents. Like I said, if they don't want to be successful, if they don't want to sell 36 homes, they're probably not going to sell 12. So it's, let them, and also communicate with them, find out what they want, find out what their journey is. Don't try to convince them this is what they want. I think that was my thing a lot of times is like, oh, you could do this, you could do this. Is like, that may not be the thing for everyone. And my brother says it all the time. He's like, well, so-and-so, they're, these people are lazy and this, that kind of mindset. And I'm like, hey, look, if everyone kicked ass, you'd be at the bottom of the totem pole because you barely work. Like, come on. Like, if we were all me, your ass would be like the one that couldn't afford anything because, hello, we're just going to keep climbing the prices. So you got to be grateful for the ones that aren't going to crush it because otherwise you wouldn't stand out. Yeah. I say that I'm like, the reason why I'm successful is probably because I'm in San Diego. San Diego's very chill. We're very like laid back, easygoing. I don't know if I could make it in New York or LA. I probably would. I would adjust, but still I think it's my surroundings and, just what I've created here has helped me become successful. But we got to be, meet people where they're at. And if you're creating a smaller team, you probably have to have your per agent production a lot higher to be worth it for you. But then you got to be cautious that people might leave. If you're a bigger team, it could be fine that your per agent production is lower, but someone leaves, the percentage of their sales of your total is very minimal.
Well, and there's that kind of balance too that I think a lot of people get caught up in. Is there's this profitability with the micro method, and then there is profitability where you're at, but then in the middle, right? So where is that threshold, and how do you know when to push through? Because I mean, like you said, that's a harder feat to have 5 agents that have to do whatever 25 or 30 versus, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it is hard. And then when one leaves or 2 leave, you're just like, oh my gosh. Now, yeah. I mean, I don't want people to leave, but I have a path for my agents and it's clearly lined out in the beginning so that it's just, here's your path, follow it. You will get to, this amount in income per year. We kind of created a little candy land. Like, this is when you should buy this house. This is when you should buy this house. Oh, there's dogs going crazy in my office. I don't know if you could hear them. We have a bunch of dogs in our office. But we have this little journey. So we let agents know what to expect because they come on and they see, this girl that's been on our team, Allie, she makes like $750 plus a year. You don't deserve that year one. She works her freaking butt off. She's been our top agent maybe the last 4 years. And she's got that time with, people, so much more time and so much more past clients. And I think that it's important to really teach people that in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, this was a good conversation. We'll have to do it again sometime. And if anything, we got to talk about a company that we both love and have, I think, contributed to both of our success for sure. So,
no, for sure.
Thank you, Mark.
I want to see your calculator that you have.
Okay. It's proprietary. No, I definitely will be happy to share that. So, all right. Thank you, Mark. Bye.
Have a good day.